Aaliyah's tragic passing didn't just expose heartbreak, it allegedly exposed the dark side of the industry machinery, and now Maxwell is being praised for quietly stepping in where a major label reportedly failed, and the internet is spiraling over what really happened behind the scenes. Because here's the part that has people talking. After Aaliyah's devastating death in 2001, her label at the time, Virgin Records, had reportedly agreed to cover her funeral costs, about $68,000. That's what people are saying. That's what was allegedly promised. But then something shifted. According to reports, the executives who made that promise left the company, and suddenly that agreement? Gone. Just like that. No payment, no follow-through, and the mortuary in Nassau left waiting, left unpaid, for months. Now pause right there, because this is where the story takes a turn that feels almost unreal. But what fans noticed next is where things really get interesting. While the industry machinery appeared to be backing away, someone else stepped in, quietly, privately, and without making a single headline at the time: Maxwell. Yes, Maxwell, the same artist known for his smooth vocals and low-profile lifestyle, reportedly covered the entire bill out of his own pocket, $68,000, paid. No press release, no announcement, no look at me moment, just action. And fans are now looking back at this moment like, wait, what? Because this isn't just generosity, this is a statement. People are saying this is what real loyalty looks like in an industry often accused of gatekeeping and selective support. And now, years later, as the story resurfaces, the internet is reacting in real time. Some fans are shocked, others are emotional, and a lot of people are asking the same question: how did this not become a bigger story back then? But the best moments don't end there, because look at what happened next. The conversation has shifted from just Maxwell's generosity to something much deeper: accountability. Because if a label as big as Virgin Records allegedly made that promise, how does it just disappear? How does a commitment tied to something as serious as a funeral fall through the cracks? Fans believe this speaks to a larger pattern in the industry: promises being made, then quietly forgotten, especially when the people making those promises are no longer in the room. And suddenly, this isn't just about one situation anymore, it's about a system. But what fans noticed next is where things really get interesting. Aaliyah wasn't just any artist, she was a global star, a cultural icon, someone whose influence is still felt today. So for fans, the idea that her family had to deal with financial stress during such a painful time, that doesn't sit right. Not at all. And it's making people reevaluate how the industry treats its own. Because behind the glam, behind the fame, behind the chart-topping hits, there are real people, real families, real grief, and in this case, reportedly, a real bill that needed to be paid. But the best moments don't end there, because look at what happened next. Maxwell's role in this story is now being seen in a completely different light, not just as an artist, but as someone who stepped up when it mattered most, and did it without needing recognition. Fans are calling it rare, they're calling it honorable, they're even saying it's something you don't see often in an industry driven by visibility and attention. Because let's be real, most people would want credit. Most people would want the story told. But Maxwell? He allegedly kept it quiet, and that silence is what's making the story even louder today. But what fans noticed next is where things really get interesting. Some people are now questioning why stories like this don't surface more often. Are there other moments like this that never made headlines? Are there other artists who stepped in behind the scenes? Or is this an exception in a system that rarely operates this way? Because if this is rare, that says a lot. But if it's not, then what else don't we know? And that's where the conversation gets uncomfortable, because it challenges the image of the industry, it questions the support systems in place, and it forces people to look beyond the surface. But the best moments don't end there, because look at what happened next. The resurfacing of this story is also bringing Aaliyah's legacy back into focus, her impact, her influence, her presence that still lingers decades later. And now, this behind-the-scenes moment is being added to that legacy, not because of what went wrong, but because of who stepped up when it did. And fans are holding on to that. They're sharing it. They're talking about it. They're making sure it doesn't get lost again. Because stories like this, they matter. But what fans noticed next is where things really get interesting.
There's also a sense of frustration in the conversation. Frustration with how things were handled. Frustration with the idea that a promise could be made and then abandoned. And frustration with the lack of accountability. Because at the end of the day, someone had to step in. And that someone wasn't the institution that allegedly said they would. It was an individual. And that difference, it's everything. So now, years later, the narrative is shifting, the spotlight is moving, and the conversation is evolving from tragedy to truth to recognition, and maybe even to a deeper understanding of how the industry really works behind closed doors. So what do you think about Maxwell reportedly paying for Aaliyah's funeral after the label backed out? Does this change how you see the industry machinery, or does it confirm what people have been saying all along? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.